What oddly specific rules have you seen that are probably only there because someone actually did it in the past? In rehab, our cotton swabs were taken away because a guy decided to jam one into his eardrum to get sent to the hospital and get painkillers. Every seemingly dumb rule we had in there had a backstory to it. Oofed. Used to work in a prison, and they had to ban Marmite spread because the inmates used the yeast to ferment alcohol, and Kit Kats because they used the foil wrappers for H. Since COVID and things going digital, we now have a you must wear clothes rule, and we already had a pretty casual dress code. The Zoom virtual background is nice, but it really needs a virtual shirt option. Last year's company Christmas party email specifically stated to bring an extra pair of pants if you will be urinating in the first pair. I hope somebody really obviously brought an extra pair and just had them in a bag and refused to acknowledge it the entire night, and then maybe changed part way through to the other pants and just kept carrying on like nothing. I had the same biology professor for Bio IN 2. Because of me, the Bio 2 PowerPoint included a new excuse that wouldn't be accepted for missing late work. My drunk roommates threw it out while cleaning. Absolutely no roller skates in the lab. My husband worked for a private lab startup and half the women there did roller derby. The lab was, as many are, a repurposed warehouse with nice smooth concrete floors. One of the women thought it would be fun to skate between machines. She got a lot done, but the boss figured Osha wouldn't be too thrilled, so the sign went up a few days later. You could still wear your skates in the break room. I used to rollerblade all over my college campus as it was faster for getting around than walking. I was also too lazy to change into street shoes at the dining halls, etc., and would just coast all over the place. Come sophomore year, signs were put up in various campus buildings prohibiting rollerblades inside. On an Air France flight from Morocco to Mauritania, the flight attendant gave the safety brief in French at first. My French is not good, but my ears pricked up when I heard the words feu de camp. I obviously discounted my translation as misunderstanding the brief until she went into the brief in English. We were given the standard safety brief on all aircraft, but at the end we were specifically reminded that there are to be no cooking or campfires lit on the plane at any time. Can you imagine your seatmate getting hungry and deciding to start a fire on an airplane to cook up some snacks? Pharmacy worker here. We have to specify to unwrap suppositories before insertion. Apparently someone thought the foil was part of it. Fellow pharmacy worker. To add on to yours, having to specify that suppositories are rectal only, or vaginal. Sometimes people think all drugs go in your mouth, and that the capsules that come with Spiriva inhalers are not meant to be swallowed. My father's hometown, Marion, Ohio, had a rule that you couldn't eat a donut while walking backwards. If I remember correctly, it had something to do with attracting police horses to lure them away from the police. More like luring the cop away from his horse car. Remove baby before collapsing stroller. We once got a piece of clothing for one of the kids and write on the label, I kid you not, remove child before washing. In my lease, I had a clause to properly dispose of my used tampons. I asked why, and apparently my landlord had a tenant that caused $50,000 of damage because she threw her used tampons into the cabinet under the sink. She rented the apartment for years and there were 3+ years worth of used, bloody tampons in there. The blood caused a bunch of damage akin to water damage to the bathroom. The floor under the cabinet was rotted through from bloody tampon storage. The thought of a steamy, gelatinous glob of blood gooping through the crappy linoleum and blooming a bloody clicker from The Last of Us makes me want to actively die. Never iron clothes while they are being worn, or the more fricked up. Do not use for drying pets on the microwave. I know someone who ironed their shirt while wearing it. Not good. Do not dress game. For example, deer, pheasant, in dormitory kitchens. I wonder who dragged a deer into the dorm and cut it up for venison. At my last job, we had a sign on the back door that said you must walk trash all the way to the dumpster. Do not train the raccoons. The story behind that is the facility I worked at does dog daycare and training, and Darcy the human, not to be confused with Darcy the poodle, didn't like having to walk all the way across the parking lot at the end of the night to take out the trash. and trained about 3 raccoons to drag the bags to the dumpster because he couldn't be bothered to walk 50 feet to it. He got away with it for about a year, and even named them. The manager only found out when she opened the back door to throw out some boxes and saw a bunch of raccoons immediately run up and cart them off. I wouldn't even be angry, just impressed. The 10-bin bowling alley in Geelong implemented a patrons must not play blindfolded rule. The manager claims it was for safety reasons, but I will always know in my heart it was solely because I beat him 3 games in a row wearing a blindfold. Geelong is an awesome city on the bottom of the Australian mainland. Lived there 18 years. Sadly, the bowling alley was demolished around 2001. My neighbor told me about that sign. Kind of funny to know others remember it. No rings on ship decks. They can get caught and deglove your finger, which is exactly as horrid as it sounds. Oh yeah, none in a metal shop either, same reason. My all-time favorite, in the Taco Bell I frequented as a teenager. Please do not spit on the managers. It wasn't even a freaking paper, it was a plaque. Someone got spit on enough times to go out and pay for a plaque. For my fellow scientists, transferring chemicals by mouth pipetting, is forbidden. I was in high school and did stage 1 chemistry while mouth pipettes were still current tech. More recently than you might think, not entirely coincidentally, I also know what sulfuric acid and sodium hydroxide taste like. In a supermarket, by the cherry display, for the safety of employees and customers, please do not discard cherry pits on the floor. Couldn't figure out why it didn't just say please don't eat the cherries, but I'm sure there's an injury lawsuit involved. I wish I thought of this. I work and produce at a grocery store and cherry season is the worst. I find cherry pits everywhere. The best part is knowing they've been in some savage's mouth. I worked for a company that would send us out of town and put us up in hotels for weeks. We had per diem for food, but they told us we could absolutely not use it on alcohol. Found out the company used to have an open bar at the hotel for employees until some former employees got so drunk they hired prostitutes and ended up doing C and were killed out of the hotel and arrested. This goes beyond adding insult to injury. Wish I had a picture, but in every restroom stall at my work there is a sign that says 3 courtesy flush. Flush once to prepare for elimination. Flush between the go and the paper. Flush upon completion. Wonder who put that together in their head and said I have a solution. Hear me out, guys. Shipping procedures. Send the package immediately with paperwork to follow. Back in the 90s, I used to work in a convenience store in New Jersey. Once a year I'd have to go to the health department and get certified as a food handler. It is in this capacity that I learned that there is a law on the books in the state of New Jersey that you cannot store food under a leaking sewage pipe. You just know health inspector went into a store and said what the heck. You can't store food under leaking sewer pipe, and the store owner said cite the statute. There was this one residence hall on campus where we had to inform students on move-in day not to twist their apartment room key a certain way into their bathroom door, otherwise they could possibly get locked, and if closed, they were encouraged just to use the inner lock bolt body system. Students got charged $5 after one free pass if a staff member got a call and had to rescue them from trapping themselves in their own bathroom. Working in that hall for 2 years, I rescued students 7 times, and 4 of those times it was the same girl. If the water between Denmark and Sweden freezes, and the Swedes walk over, we, the Danes, are allowed to hit them with sticks. I now want to live in Denmark. In church, there was a sign above the votive candles that read, light only 1 candle, $7 each. Apparently, for $7, someone had lighted all 50 votive candles in the stand. Someone needed serious prayers. One of our employees walked into the sliding glass door to the kitchen so hard that it left an impression of his face on the glass. HR declared the glass sliding door to be dangerous and requested a sign to be put on the door. CEO puts a sign on the glass door saying no face planting. I worked at a video rental store and we had a big sign at the front of the store that said control your children because kids are an organizational nightmare. You are not allowed to bring furniture to camp. This was even more impressive because you had to hand carry all your things onto a ferry to get to the camp. While I would like to take credit for the rule, I only knew the person responsible when they showed up with a recliner. Worked as a substitute teacher. During training there was a good 30 minutes reviewing strange rules. One he heavily specified was how we are not allowed to take home class pets. Turns out a sub the year before had taken home a class goldfish because the tank was too small and then ransomed the goldfish to the class until proof of a larger tank. I can respect that tbh. Goldfish seriously suffer in small containers. I work as a counselor at a Boy Scout camp that happens to have coconut trees. One of the rules I have to read to the scouts is do not take a coconut and stick it between your legs and try to stab it with your pocket knife. This is because at least one kid some time ago did this, resulting in an emergency hospital trip. On a package of precision screwdrivers, do not insert into penis. Joke 1 on various laser related things. Do not look into laser with remaining eye. I'm not saying let's kill all the stupid people. I'm just saying let's remove the warning labels and let the problem sort itself out. Too many stories have left me mentally scarred by screwdrivers, making me shudder at the mere thought of them. It's as crazy as it sounds. Worked at a call center. As it was moving towards shutting down, they weirdly got super stringent about rules. Couldn't have pen and paper, so I brought putties and non-sticky slime to give myself something to do during downtime. Email goes out. No putty or slime. Okay, I'll finally learn to crochet. Bring in yarn and needles. Email goes out. No crochet or knitting. Fine. I'll write as a hobby, so I'll type up some blurbs on Word. Maybe make an annoying customer bingo sheet on Excel. Email goes out. No longer allowed to use Word or Excel. Every email was sent like a week or less after I started doing the thing, with the exception of the putty. Timeline made sense to me and my friends. Kinda. But I'm sure for everyone else in the call center they were bewildered as frick. Should have started messing with the phone cords to see if they would ban phone cords. When I was a security guard, do not eat marshmallows that are fired at you. Do not eat marshmallows off the ground. We were having issues with residents having marshmallow gun fights. Worked at an auto body shop. The break room microwave sign said no fish or birds. There were a few Vietnamese guys working there. The guy who worked in the wash bay detailing the cars before they were given back to the customers was about 60 years old, and he always had weird stuff for lunch. I've seen him with bags full of fish heads, entire birds, feathers and all, mystery bags of unknown meat, etc. Apparently he had used the break room microwave to cook these sorts of random things and made the entire office reek for days at a time. They ended up putting the old break room microwave in the wash bay, which was in an unattached building, so he could cook all the nasty crap he wanted to eat without disturbing anyone else. I like how this story has a salty, but wholesome ending. I live in student accommodation. On the back of the bathroom door there are diagrams of the right and wrong ways to sit on the toilet. International students from countries that only have squats is the reason. They would stand on the toilet seat then squat over the bowl. Some universities put a few squat toilets in for this reason. Some rules at university were quite funny. Rubbing your sample on a person who is allergic to nickel is not a valid nickel detection method and will result in failing the course. An organic chemistry you are supposed to take a tiny sample of your excrement and spread it on the plate. Not, and I repeat, not the whole thing itself. Microbiology class. I'm glad I didn't take the same micro course you did. If you've had diarrhea in the last 48 hours, please do not enter the pool water. Real sign I saw at the pool of my Airbnb in LA a few years back. They have this sign at my local pool. Common sense really. I work in healthcare. Having a personal relationship with your client is a big one. We had a caregiver marry a client's spouse. I go over professional boundaries during orientations at least 10 times. I trained home hospice carers and had to put in a do not smoke marijuana or give edibles to clients section. Living in a state where it's legal does not mean you, as a care provider, are allowed to share. I have a very strange one at my work. Apparently, if an employee is sick and hospitalized, their manager may buy them a gift from the company for up to $40. However, if the person is hospitalized for the same again within a calendar year, they may not receive another gift. However, if they are hospitalized for a different thing, they can receive another $40 gift. Like, what the heck? It's so detailed. It's like someone got cancer and kept requesting gifts during chemo. Also, that being said, who cares about giving a person with cancer an extra $40 a week? I went to work in a remote part of Alaska as a line cook. They had a mandatory drug test and very extensive background check with several interviews held by various admins in the company. This doesn't seem weird until you consider the type of people who work seasonal jobs, especially remote seasonal jobs several hours from the closest town. It takes a special kind of weird to even be interested in spending 6 months there. When I finally arrived in camp and asked around, I found out the previous summer they had some issues with one specific employee. Before that summer, employment with the company was very liberating. You show up for your shift, you're good, not much else to it. You're also surrounded by wilderness for 100s of miles and purposefully scheduled 3-day weekends so you can enjoy it. Well, one guy brings his son with him. Apparently that's not too weird at the time. The son starts stealing personal items of female employees and stashing them under his mattress. The dad is also getting coke smuggled in by either a trucker or the mail. It all culminates with one big episode that no one really wanted to discuss. After that, mandatory drug tests and very detailed interview process with background checks. For a long time, not sure if this is still the case, the school in my small town disallowed high schoolers from providing the lights for the Christmas trees. This rule was made because my uncle, when he was in high school, used outdoor lights and set the tree on fire. I had an English teacher that had an ironclad rule about no one touching her classroom door except for her. Rumor is that some kids superglued her classroom door shut a few years ago. This led to some of my classmates rubbing themselves all over the door when she was absent for a day and when she went on maternity leave. Lincoln Logs are not welcomed at this LEGO convention. After in 2009, the convention creator said Bionicle is about as LEGO as Lincoln Logs. Several Lincoln Log creations appeared in the Bionicle section overnight, and Lincoln Logs have been banned ever since. Australian here. First time I have heard of Lincoln Log. That might explain why Americans' cabins have a similar design. You know those hinge baby changing stations that fold flat against the wall? Do not fold tray while child is strapped in. My father always puts on rental agreements no ducks. This is due to an ex-renter who had a pet duck who lived in the house and pooped like a duck poops and the tenant never cleaned it up. That house will always be known as the day of the duckocalypse when they finally vacated. My first day at a bagel joint I got very specific directions on using the deli slicer from someone who had seen a girl open up the underside of her upper arm, the turkey waddle. Notice in butcher's shop, please do not let your children sit on the bacon slicer because we are getting a little behind in our orders. I work in a warehouse and right inside the door is a huge sign with the dress code on it. Rule 1 literally says employees must wear clothes and I am kind of disappointed I wasn't there when the rule had to be made. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.